there's a whole all actors have their own versions of these stories. Like one of my favorites uh, uh, that I heard from somebody said, "Yeah, you're on TV, aren't you?" And they said, "Yeah." He said, "What channel?" That was one. I love that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um, what channel are you on? But so anyway, so these two guys are like looking at me going, "No," trying to figure out where it is they know me from, like whether they actually know me or I was in something, because sometimes that's a a blurry line as well. And the guy finally said, "Oh, I know. You're from the 80's." So my now ex-girlfriend thought that was very funny, but
Well,
that
that's
guy
great that
from the 80's.
you get credited to a whole period of time.
For
That's
an
awesome.
entire
I know.
decade.
I have yes, I am representative of an era. So
You
so
should
that's
get a
something,
shirt
right?
that says "I am the '80s."
I am the 80's. The 80's. I but the interesting thing is it's like I am somehow a part of other people's 80's. Right? Like people who went through the 80's and go, "Oh, you were a big part of that." And I go, I was barely there." But okay, cool. So,
You,
yeah.
Now,
I mean, I don't think it's fair for you to say you were barely there because
oh,
you were in some
you
massive
were all
hits.
Oh,
over.
I was in my version of it. I was in whatever it was that I was in. But yeah, but you're right. And yes, I don't mean to take that away. But yeah, but it's I find it so interesting that like things that people notice the most are things that like probably this movie that I just did with Nick Cage is probably going to be the thing that I'm most remembered for, which is very cool because I like it. So there's we're at least congruent there. I I don't have people like I have people. There was a guy who I was working with one time, and he said Total Recall is one of my favorite movies ever. And I sat him down. And I said, "Okay, why?" Because I don't get it. I mean, and he explained to me, and it was like once he was talking about it, it's like, oh yeah, no, I get it. I mean, there are some movies that you like that are just like you kind of think of them as your own personal movie because you think like you're the only one who gets it. And I know I've got a lot of those, so it's like, yeah, okay, I totally get that. So I certainly don't want to take that away from somebody who saw something and goes, no, I like that. I go, okay, good. I am actually at this point glad to be a part of it. So yeah.
So, are you a fan of the movie Total Recall?
You know what? I there was on the 30th anniversary, or no, the 25th anniversary, which was I guess would have been around 2005. It was showing in theaters because it was the anniversary, and my girlfriend said, "Hey, let's go see it." And so we went and saw it. And my scene is about 20 minutes into it, and when it was over, I started to realize that I'd never seen this movie. I'd seen the beginning of it. I saw up to my stuff, but I didn't. But that was because when I made it, whenever that was, 89, 90, my wife at the time was very squeamish about violent things in movies. So we had a system where she would just close her eyes and I would hold her hand. And after the violent scene was over, I would just squeeze her hand and she'd know she could continue watching. And so my scene happened. And then the scene right after my scene was the scene where Schwarzenegger suddenly snaps and kills like 5 people who are trying to kill him. And it was the first time I think they'd ever done really intense sound effects for a fight scene like that. So not only were people getting punched and stuff, but they were doing the full on, celery cracks and snapping and squishing sounds when somebody would get hit. And so even though her eyes were closed, it was pretty traumatizing for her. So after the scene, she said, "Are you in any more of this movie?" And I said, "No, I'm not."